Good morning, he said, with enthusiasm. Hello, everybody. It is Thursday. This is Get Your News On with Ron, sort of. We haven't started yet. We don't start until there are 30 people in the YouTube chat. Then we officially begin. It's just how we roll here. I hope everyone is having a lovely morning. Or afternoon, or what's up, Chris? You are in fact first. Good to see you. What's up, Pat? Good to see you. Howdy, howdy. Hope everyone is having a lovely Thursday. This is our last stream of the week. The podcast comes out tomorrow, so if you missed anything this week, check out the podcast. We got a nice summary. Balthazar, it's been a minute. Good to see you. Good morning, indeed. What's up, Mike? Chromatic Tree, what's up? Good to see ya. Look up a picture of Keith Richards' fingers. Why? Did something happen to his fingers? Is he okay? Sugar Coma Thursday says Long Beach. Is that why you've been tweeting so many articles, Long Beach? You're on a sugar high? What's up, Cappuccino Conservative? The screen name with the mostest. Good to see ya. Hope everyone had a lovely Halloween, and hold those thoughts because I want to hear about people's Halloweens. We got to talk about it. They're so fucked up from playing for 40 some odd years. Keith Richards, yeah. I believe it. I believe it. We got a lot to talk about today. I'm excited. Let me go ahead and pull up the Reddit, and then as soon as we're at 30, we will begin. And there's the Reddit right there. So there's only a couple of us now. We haven't gotten to 30 yet, but am I going to get to see anybody? Chris Walker. I get to see you this weekend, huh? I will see you in Sacramento, sir, and I'm looking forward to it. We're stoked for the show in Sacramento. The venue's excited. We're excited. We're stoked for San Francisco, too. I don't know if anybody I'm going to see in San Francisco. But, yeah, stoked to see you guys. Can't wait to see you this weekend. Ron, why not get window paint and tell people to write Vote November 6th on their car windows? Well, I wouldn't want that sign on my car, so I don't know if I wish it on anyone else. That'll be better than any sign because the car travels around town. Let's see. I do encourage people to vote on November 6th, though. I really do. There's like we've talked about before, even if you're discouraged by the electoral side of things, which I can relate to, what is there to vote for? Jilly, that's a great question. I can tell you, where I live in California, we get to vote on Prop 10, which is a prop that brings rent control, or brings the potential to have rent control on the ballot. We don't have the right to put rent control on the ballot in many places yet. It lifts those regulations. Prop 10 does. We're also voting for a public bank in Los Angeles. If Los Angeles got a public bank, that would change the country. So those are just two things. There's a couple other propositions we got. We got a clean water proposition in my community in Pasadena. So yeah, there's plenty to vote on. There's plenty to vote on, at least where I live, and I'm sure that's the case where you live too. We are over 30. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. That means you guys tweet me articles, and that's how we build the show. We build it one article at a time, one idea at a time. Jaguar, window paint will spread the vote, dude. Jaguar, tell you what, you first. You put that on your car, and you tweet me the photo. And then I will give you mad props. You'll get mad props from me. How was everybody's Halloween? That's what I want to know first. I had the lamest Halloween ever, so I want to live vicariously. My Halloween kind of... I mean, it was nice. I spent it with my fiance. We had a nice time. But as far as doing something Halloween-y, we really shit the bed. So we tried to watch a movie and fell asleep. That was basically my Halloween. We tried 3 different movies, and we failed at all of them, and then we just fell asleep. We did do something. We went and we got frozen yogurt. That was like our getting candy. That was our version of it. We got frozen yogurt, and then and then we went to the gym to kind of work off that frozen yogurt, or try to. Garden Gnome, you were working. Well, hey, at least you were paying those bills, huh? Angie says, you sound married already. Yeah, don't I? Like, that's totally... we're going to go, we're going to make dinner, then we're going to go get frozen yogurt for dessert, and then we're going to go to the gym. Jordan, your Pistons lost in overtime, and you only had 1 trick-or-treater. Well, now you're going to be stuck with Halloween candy for the next 6 months. That's what happened to me last year at our house. We also only had 1 trick-or-treater. So we had Halloween candy for the next 6 months, which was a good thing and a terrible thing all at the same time. Tim had trick-or-treaters, including the postman. Let's see. I got stuck in 2 hours of traffic. This is Mr. Broken Ass. I got stuck in 2 hours of traffic and missed trick-or-treating with my daughters. That sucks. That really sucks. That's like the one time... Like I said yesterday, the one time I'm envious of my friends with children is on Halloween. That's the one time where I'm like, it'd be cool to have children to live vicariously through the trick-or-treating joy that we all used to have. And we talked about Halloween's past, so I won't reiterate that. But I did want to know how everyone's Halloween went before we get into stories. I was locked up in the house as Cappuccino and Conservative. Watched my buddy play Resident Evil 3. Pat points out, getting stuck with Halloween candy is not a bad thing. I wish I could say it's only a good thing, but for me, it's kind of a bad thing too. Did I read Ivanka's book? No, I didn't. I'm reading a book right now on participatory economy. It's an interesting book. And I'm also reading... and the next book I'm going to read, that's the only book I'm reading at the moment. But the next book I'm going to read is... I want to read Laura Jane Grace's book. This book's pretty heavy on theory and stuff like that, so I want to do something a little lighter next. So I want to read Laura Jane Grace's book. For anyone that doesn't know who that is, Laura Jane Grace is the front woman for Against Me. So I'm excited. Who's the author of your participatory economy book? You know what? I can go look for you. Yes, Eric O just told you. Paracon by Michael Labert. That's the book. The book is called Paracon. Yeah, I'm excited to read that book. Or I'm reading that book right now, excuse me. I'm enjoying it. I mean, there's some interesting concepts in there. I don't think I'm totally on board with everything I read, and don't ask me specifics at the moment because it's not fresh on my mind, but some of the stuff I read in there, I'm like, that's a nice thought, but I don't think it would work out that way. But the way they break things down, it's a very fun book to read and very interesting. But I really want to read Laura Jane Grace's book, which is, as Jordan points out, the title of the book is Tranny, which isn't really a nice word to say today, but it's Laura Jane Grace's book. She is transgendered, and that's the title of the book. And I'm really excited to read it. Cappuccino Conservative, some dipshit politician tweeted out that the Medicare for All shirt is the scariest costume. I saw that. I did see that, and that was pretty... They got a lot of flack for it. They did get a lot of flack for it. Hi, Marcia. How are you? And, alright, so anyone else have anything cool to tell me about their Halloween? Did anyone do anything really freaking awesome? Otherwise, we're just going to move on to stories today. because we got a lot to get through, and I'm excited to get through it. Jaguar says their Halloween was lame. K-Line reported, sucks being Canadian, not being able to watch the Halloween parade in New York City. Damn Spectrum. Well, K-Line, if it makes you feel any better, I've never watched the New York Halloween parade in my life. I didn't know that was even a thing, to tell you the truth. I mean, I know there's the St. Patrick's Day parade that's pretty popular. There's a New Year's Day parade. I didn't even know there's a Halloween parade and it's big in New York City. I didn't even know that. Anyone else know that? I didn't even know that. But yeah. So I've never watched that before. I'll try to watch it in the future for your sake. But yeah. Yeah, Jordan points out, I thought it was just the new year. Public Domain talked to some Jehovah's Witnesses. Jilly Love watched Rocky Horror Classic. Did you participate, Jilly Love? Did you throw the rice? Did you yell at the appropriate times? Did you reenact any of the scenes? Did you watch Rocky Horror or did you participate in Rocky Horror? Which I know is kind of hard to do if you're just watching it at your house or just with friends. But, you know. Couldn't we pay go over to Medicare for all since the premiums and penalties are considered taxes? Well, it would also lower the costs. So, but I'm sure they're not going to look at it that way. Let's see. Let me read a couple more things here. Hell House LLC, which was surprisingly really good if you're into lower budget horror. I wish I would have known that last night, man. Me and my fiance, tried to watch like 3 different movies, and we didn't make it through any of them. I don't know if that had something to do with we were just tired, or if they just weren't very good movies. But yeah, 3 strikes. 3 strikes. Garden Gnome, I never understood the Rocky Horror cult. It's fun. I mean, I've been to Rocky Horror Live twice. In fact, I can tell you this story. In college, I had very long hair, and I had hair like down to here, basically. And I went to a Rocky Horror Picture Show screening with a couple buddies, and we all dressed in drag, right? It was a Rocky Horror Show. We dressed in drag. Some of our female friends took us out shopping, bought us tights, bought us skirts. You know, we did it at, I think, a Goodwill, and we got a drag. I donated the clothes back, by the way, in case you were wondering. I donated the clothes back. So we dressed in drag for Rocky Horror. Keep in mind, I was in my early 20s, and I had very long hair at the time. And I went to a party after, and I just stayed in. It was a costume party, so I just stayed in drag, right? I'm already in costume. So I go to this party, and I'm drinking with my buddies. There's a keg. It's your typical college party. Now, at the time, whenever we would have a big kegger, one of the things that guys would do if you had to pee, you would just kind of go out in the back near the woods, and you would pee. That was something we did. So I went to go pee, and there was this big group of dudes that came around while I was peeing. And again, I'm in drag, I have long hair. And so this group of guys, and they were totally like, you could tell they were just totally kind of douchey, fratty dudes. And the one guy goes, bro, man, look over there, bro. And I hear them saying this. And he's like, look over there, bro. Look over there. And I don't know what they're referring to. I'm just peeing. And so then I hear this guy kind of approaching me. Like I can hear the footsteps. And he puts his hand on my back. And he goes, what you doing here all alone, girl? And I go, probably the same thing you came out here to do, motherfucker. And then he goes, oh, shit! And he fucking goes away. And, yeah, that's so fucking... I didn't give him permission to touch my back. That was my one very brief experience at knowing what it's like. I was not squatting. No, I guess he didn't know what I was doing. I don't know if maybe he thought I was texting. I don't know what he thought, but my penis was in my hand and I'm peeing, right? And I mean, he just saw the back of me, so he didn't see the front. But yeah, he almost, if he would have leaned in closer, he would have gotten hit by the stream and he would have freaking deserved it, to be honest with you. And yeah, you guys are pointing out the exact theme of this story. Yes, it is kind of funny, but also now you know what it's like to be a woman all the time. And yeah, what you doing here, girl? That's exactly what he said. And I still remember, Melissa points out he was probably too drunk to see what you were doing. Damn Peace Story, says Pat Hacker. Yeah, I mean, and it is an interesting story because there is that funny component to it, like you guys are pointing out. It was funny. I told all my friends after, they got a big kick out of it. That guy was super embarrassed. And maybe he learned a life lesson that, hey, don't be a fucking creep. Don't go up to a girl when she's standing alone and be creepy like that. Say hello. Say, hey, how are you? What are you up to? You having a good Halloween? Maybe if someone's standing alone away from the crowd, they want to be away. Maybe if that would have been a female, maybe she was sending a text message. Maybe you could have made sure she was okay. Maybe you could have been like, hey, why are you out here alone? Is everything okay? Could have done that. And that would have been less funny because I would have been like, dude, I'm peeing. It's Halloween, bro. It would have been less funny. But yeah, you could have done that. So, what you doing here, girl? And it's not like he aggressively run my. He just kind of sort of as a sort of. So it wasn't, but still, it was like, dude, what the fuck? Anyway, people are saying he didn't learn anything. Maybe he did. Maybe he was like, you know what? I should have kept my hands to myself and said, hello, how's it going tonight? Why do you, And I'm not justifying his actions, but it was kind of funny. And if he would have been more aggressive, he would have gotten peed on. And I think that actually would help our situation. I think that, guys that want to be way too aggressive approaching women, then if every time they do that, they get peed on by a guy, I think that would change some things. If every time there was just, oh man, I was way too aggressive approaching a person, and I got peed on by a dude. That's what happened. You might learn. You might learn from it. You might learn. If only, right? If only. So anyway, yeah, that's my story. It's a kind of funny Rocky Horror Picture Show story, because yeah, we went to Rocky Horror. Nobody knew I wasn't a dude at the show, by the way, but it was afterwards when this guy was just, yeah, and it was one guy too, but whatever. What are you gonna do? And I'm sure that if I did that same thing today, nobody would have any. I mean, keep in mind, some people are saying I was in drag before. No one ever approached me. I was a lot younger. I was skinnier. And I had very long hair, too. So I guess from the back, what are you going to do? Let's talk about the news, shall we? All right. Boom. Google staff walk out over women's treatment. You know what? We had a pretty nice transition, didn't we? That, my Rocky Horror Picture Show story, albeit mostly a funny story, but also a little bit of a lesson of, hey, if you're a dude, don't be a creep. Be a gentleman. Say hello. Apparently at Google, they're having some problems with that too. Google staff walk out over women's treatment. So I saw this in the news today. I saw a couple tweets about it. I don't know the details as of yet. So let's Let's see what's going on here. Staff at Google offices around the world are staging an unprecedented series of walkouts in protest at the company's treatment of women. The employees are dealing with several key changes in how sexual misconduct allegations are dealt with at the firm, including a call to end forced arbitration, a move which would make it possible for victims to sue. Google Chief Executive Sundar Pichai has told staff he supports their right to take the action. I understand the anger and disappointment that many of you feel, he said in an all-staff email. I feel it as well, and I am fully committed to making progress on an issue that has persisted far too long in our society. And yes, here at Google, too. Well, clearly here at Google, dude, because people are walking out. A Twitter feed entitled @GoogleWalkout has documented the movement at Google's international offices. And Jack hasn't blocked it as of yet, hopefully, which is a good thing. Google staff in Singapore, Zurich, London, Tokyo, Berlin, and New York were among those to take part. Where you at, Silicon Valley? Where you at, Silicon Valley? I'm coming near you this weekend. Where you at? Web developer Sam Dutton, who joined the walkout in London, lovely town. God, I miss London. I was just there. So beautiful. Told the BBC, we're walking out to support colleagues in any workplace that have suffered harassment and to ensure that perpetrators aren't protected or rewarded. Sorry, guys. What led to the walkout? All right, so what led to this? Anger at the firm has boiled over in the past week since the New York Times alleged that one high-profile executive received a $90 million payout after he left the firm, despite what Google considered a credible allegation of sexual misconduct made against him. Andy Rubin, known as the creator of the Android mobile operating system, denies the allegation. On Tuesday, another executive, this time from the company's X-Research Lab, also resigned. Richard Duvall was said to have made unwanted advancement towards a woman who was recently interviewed for a job in which she would have reported to Mr. Duvall. I mean, that is textbook person in power abuses their power. Mr. Duvall has not commented since his resignation, but in the past called the incident an error of judgment. That's code for he did it. Let's be real here. That means that the story she's telling is true. That's... man, I thought there was nothing wrong with dangling a job over somebody's head and abusing my power in a really gross way. I didn't... Error of judgment. My bad. At least 48 other employees have been sacked for sexual harassment without receiving a payout, Mr. Pichai told the staff. He admitted the New York Times report had been difficult to read. Hard for me to read this. Hard for me. Why did it take 48 times then? So that's what's going on over at Google, and I hope those employees that didn't get settlements get them, and I hope it changes the culture over there. Oh, and I hope they also learn to not help China censor the internet. I hope they also learn that. Seems like they're slowly starting to learn that too, because employees protested over that too. Which shout out to the employees that did, and shout out to the employees that are protesting now and walking out. So there you go. That's what's going on over at Google. Apparently there is a culture of harassment that's gone unchecked. That's what's hitting the press, and some people are doing something about it. And when you see stuff like the response when people are resigning and saying, I made an error of judgment, that means they did what they're being accused of. Let's be real here. I am 100% in support of due process. I think everybody deserves it. But when you hear responses like that, that's when you can kind of connect the dots. So anyway, let's move on. To some pretty bad environment news. Ken tweeted this out. Trump's EPA concludes community don't have the right to know about potentially toxic emissions. Excuse me. Ooh, and I am having... All right. Uh-oh. Yeah, thanks. Think progress. All right, this article might be freezing up on me. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Think Progress. All right, here we go. Now it's free. Trump's EPA concludes communities don't have the right to know about potentially toxic emissions. Industry supporters describe potentially toxic emissions as normal odors from animal waste. There you go. It's just shit, you guys. Don't worry. It's just... That'd be awesome if that was what every environmental infringer blamed it on. They're like, no, it's just animal shit. Hey, is fracking bad? No, dude, just cow shit. Are you sure? I'm pretty sure fracking's bad. Nope, just cow shit. Hey, the stuff that we're polluting the water. No, it's just cow. You're just smelling cow shit. The water's fine. What factory farm owners portray as normal odors from animal waste can cause serious harm to farmers and the residents who live near these large industrial operations. The Trump administration, like it has with many important health and safety rules, is siding with industry and ignoring how animal waste can have serious impacts on the health of Americans. So in this case, it actually is literally animal shit. But it'd be awesome if that was... What if that was always the scapegoat? All right, so embracing the normal odor argument, acting Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Andrew Wheeler signed a proposed rule on Tuesday to amend energy release notification regulations to let industrial agricultural operations off the hook from reporting air emissions from animal waste at their farms. It's just what it smells like. This is despite the mountain of evidence that shows concentrated animal feeding operations produce toxic air that can be lethal for farm workers and nearby residents. The proposed rule is intended to make it clear to the regulated community that animal waste emissions from farms do not need to be reported. Oh, guys, a little cow shit never killed anybody. That's what they're arguing. They're like, hey man, there's some cultures where they put cow shit in their hair to make it pretty. And you have a problem with us reporting on it? Come on, lighten up. Don't be such a purist. Little cow shit, it's just cow shit. That should be the slogan of the EPA. It's just cow shit. EPA, we're protecting you. Little cow shit never killed anybody. Which, And I accidentally closed out of the next article I wanted to go to. So let me go see if I can get back to it. Here we go. Yeah, I got there. I got it back. Little cow shit. That'll be the thing. Little cow shit never killed anybody. EPA. EPA. You don't like cow shit? Tough shit. That's the slogan. We're the EPA. You don't like cow shit? Tough shit. Joe, end the clip there. All right. The U.S. declines in internet freedom rankings thanks to net neutrality repeal and fake news. If you need a safe haven on the internet where the pipes are open and the freedoms are plentiful, you might want to move to Estonia or Iceland. You know what else they do in Iceland? They actually prosecute bankers. That's something else they do in Iceland. So if you like the idea of a free and open internet, and it's fast and affordable, and you like the idea of bankers that commit crimes going to jail like everybody else, Iceland is the place for you. Man, it'd be a tough place to tour out of, right? Think about it. The latest Internet Freedoms rankings are out, courtesy of Freedom House's annual report into the state of Internet freedoms and personal liberties, and based on the rankings of 65 countries. The U.S. does remain in the top 10, but it dropped a point on the year earlier after a recent rash of changes to Internet regulation and a lack of in the realm of surveillance. Last year, the U.S. was 21. That was behind Estonia, Iceland, Canada, Germany, and Australia. This year, the U.S. is at 22, thanks to the repeal of net neutrality and the renewal of U.S. spy powers. Free and open internet bad, spy powers good. USA. The report also cited disinformation and hyperpartisan content, or, quote, fake news, as a pressing concern. It was only in June, after a protracted battle, that the FCC finally pulled the plug on the Obama-era rules. We all know that. And, of course, the government surveillance laws. So there you go. We're not doing so great when it comes to internet freedom. here in the U.S. We should be first. Based on all the stuff that we claim to hold as values, we should be first. We value, quote, liberty. We value freedom of the press. We value freedom of information. We have the First Amendment. We have free speech laws that, again, I think are pretty freaking good. I think the free speech laws in the U.S. are pretty solid free speech laws. That's why I want to see entities as big as a Facebook have to abide by them. So we should be first, or among the first. But instead, we're not. And we've gotten worse. And, you know, we talked yesterday about how the FCC is now going after public broadband because they know that it's a threat to their business as usual. They're seeing that it's a threat. So that is a good thing in some ways because it means that we're making progress. A bad thing is in other ways because, you know, it's a new propaganda campaign to have to try to beat. All right, let's move on to other things. Here's something from Bree. I'm going to go ahead and give it a retweet, and then I'm going to go over to it. And Bree wrote this. You know what? I actually want to end with this, Bree, because you kind of ask a question, and it'd be something fun for us to talk about at the end. So we're going to end with this, Bree, and we'll go to something else in the meantime. So we will do this, but we're gonna do it last. So we'll do a couple more because it's only 10:30, so we have time for a few more. So let's hit a few more. This is from David, who brought the broadband question Vermont to our attention, which was very exciting, and I got to get that candidate on. The unseen driver behind migrant caravan, climate change. This is over at The Guardian. Let's see what this is all about. When violence and poverty have been cited as the reasons for the exodus, experts say the big picture is that changing climate is forcing farmers off their land. And it's likely to get worse. Interesting. Thousands of Central American migrants trudging through Mexico towards the U.S. have regularly been described as either fleeing gang violence or extreme poverty. But another crucial factor is driving this caravan, and that's climate change. Most members of the migrant caravans come from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, 3 countries devastated by violence, organized crime, and systemic corruption, the roots of which can be traced back to the region's Cold War conflicts. Experts say that alongside those factors, climate change in the region is exacerbating and sometimes causing a miasma of other problems, including crop failures and poverty. So basically, they can't farm the way they should be able to farm because of climate change. And this is one of the reasons why scientific experts say we are going to have some issues over allocation of resources in the coming future. That's why, you know, I text my friends that are in the science community, and I texted one of my best friends in the whole wide world yesterday, and I said to him, dude, is it really as bad as they're saying? Like, are we fucked in 10 years? Like, how bad is it? You're a scientist. And he told me, he's like, dude, are you pregnant? That was his first question. He was messing with me because we're buddies. He goes, are you pregnant? Are you worried? And I said, look, I had a scare, but it was just indigestion. I like the planet. I think it's a cool thing. I dig the planet. I'd like for us all to be spend a while on it. That's what I'd like to see, you know? I think life's pretty groovy. I dig it. I want to have a long one. You know, I really do. I want to see more of the world. I want to get married, which I'm on my way to doing that now. I'm engaged now. And, you know, so I don't know if I'll ever have kids. I might not. I'm sort of on the fence about that. But I'd like to think that if I wanted to, I could do that, feeling like I'm bringing them into a good world that they'll be able to enjoy too. And he said, look, man, you'll be fine. Here's the deal. There's going to be a scarcity of resources. There's going to be, he said, don't invest in coastal property. But anyway, now you're seeing this firsthand. There are countries where people can't farm the way they're supposed to be able to farm, the way we've been able to farm for years and years and years and years because of climate change. It's real. It's happening. And I will say this, too, on that topic. You know, another thing my buddy said to me, he said, save seeds. And he's a very practical guy. He wasn't joking about it. He was joking about the pregnant comment. That was it. The rest of the thing, he was serious. He was like, look, he said, you're better off in foothills. You're better off not investing in coastal property. Our world as we know it will likely be unrecognizable in 50 years. He said that he predicts humanity will not end, but our world will be very different. Potentially for the better, depending on how we adapt, but it's a matter of perspective. He said the world is going to be reinvented. However, he doesn't think it'll be ruined, and that's, you know, the optimist in him. This is all via text, by the way. Because that's just, you know, sign of a good friend, you know? It really is. Sign of a good friend when you can just be like, hey, how fucked are we? You're in science. And they just answer you. You know? And then at the end he said, congrats on the engagement. But, you know, I have some cool friends where we'll just kind of, we'll kind of just be like, hey, how are you? Let's catch up for a minute. By the way, how do we fix the fucking world? Those are just the friends you migrate towards, right? But anyway, that's very interesting that that's going on. Thank you for sharing that, David. And, you know, pretty much all the science reports out there, they're saying the good news is we can do something. The bad news is we're way fucking behind schedule. We had to start doing better things yesterday. And, you know, looking at the contemporary climate, things aren't looking so good in regards to catching up. All right. Thank you for sharing that, David. And let's see. We got a couple other things here. Oh, Edwin shares this. This is going to frustrate us. We'll probably do this, and then we'll probably go to Bree's thing. And that's how we'll end the week, everybody. I just gave it a Get Your News On With Ron retweet. And this takes us over to The Hill. Vulnerable Senate Dem open to legislation ending birthright citizenship. Joe Donnelly in Indiana. Blue no matter who gets you Joe Donnelly. Where have you guys heard that before? Where have you, on this show? That's where you've heard it. That's where you've heard it. But Joe Donnelly over in Indiana, the vulnerable Democratic candidate running for re-election in Indiana, said he was open to looking at legislation that would end birthright citizenship during a Tuesday debate. I'm the only person on the stage who voted 3 times for a border wall. He's bragging about this. This is a Democrat. This is a Democrat. I voted against sanctuary cities. I've stood for secure borders with John McCain. This is Joe Donnelly speaking, a Democrat, bragging about how much he's like John McCain. Bragging about how he wants a border wall. And now he might stand beside Donald Trump in ending birthright citizenship. A racist, horrible piece of legislation. I heard you say that Senator Lindsey Graham is going to put, this is getting back to his quote, I heard you say that Senator Lindsey Graham is going to put legislation forward to rescind the law. We have to take a look at it. I'd want to see that legislation, make sure it was constitutional, and review it first. Donnelly's Republican opponent, Mike Braun, also declined to comment his support to one side of the issue, but said if Lindsey Graham's introducing it, it will be something to look at. President Trump made his intention to use an executive order to end birthright citizenship known. And he can't just do that via an executive order, but he can do it via the courts. See, here's the thing. Whenever people say, don't you see the difference? When Donald Trump introduces legislation like this, Sometimes people say, don't you see the difference between Republicans and Democrats? And that misses the bigger picture of what's really going on here. Because the point of just saying, just vote Democrat and don't ask questions, that's when you get the type of Democrats that empower this horrible legislation. That's when you get your Joe Donnellys, you get your Joe Manchins. That's what happens. So you're just having a Democrat in name only that's just going to empower these horrible policies. So the question isn't, don't you see the difference between these fascist policies and somebody that won't introduce these fascist policies? The question is, how do we stop getting elected officials that try to push through these fascist policies that nobody wants? That is completely disconnected from public opinion. Completely. And the way we do that is to try to break this system. Is to stop allowing this system to be treated like it's normal. It's not normal. This is not an okay system. This system does not deserve to be revered. It does not deserve to be put on a platform as in respectable system, because it isn't. It isn't a respectable system. It's a gross, rigged system. And the way I see it, the only way to fight that is to get on the ground locally, to protest, to get out in the streets, to join a social movement, to support candidates that represent the change you really want to see. And it's going to happen from the ground up. It's not going to happen if you just show up every 4 years and vote for the lesser of two evils, quote unquote. It's not going to work that way. Nothing's going to change. The evils are going to keep getting progressively worse. And how can you not see that when you have a Nazi sympathizer sitting in the White House? How can you not see that when you have a Nazi sympathizer sits in the White House? Because it keeps getting further and further and further to the right. When's it gonna? I mean, do we need to have Democrats that look like Donald Trump? Is that what it's going to take? Is it going to take Democrats are Nazi sympathizers and Republicans are straight up Nazis? Is that what it's going to take? Because we're getting there. I mean, there's an open Nazi running in Illinois. I mean, what's it going to take? Until you find out the lesser of two evils, it gets you to a broke. I mean, it's broken. It's broken. Joe Donnelly. Oh yeah, end it. Go ahead. All right. I know I'm preaching to the choir in this case too. I really do. Let's see if there's any other quick ones before we go to Bree's article. And then we'll use it to pose a question. All right, we'll go over to that. So this is from Bree. And here's her article. Ask a question. Is violence the answer? I admit my headline seems sensational and hyperbolic, but I mean the question quite seriously, not because I'm a violent person, and not because I believe humanity is inherently violent by nature, but I ask it because everywhere I look, I see those with power using violence against those who have no power. So is it the answer? I see cities funding and authorizing sweeps of homeless camps and passing laws making it illegal to sleep or even sit in public areas. I see cops killing unarmed citizens, mainly black and brown ones, and rarely are those cops held accountable for taking an innocent life, pretty much never. Even if they are punished, they are never held to the same standard as regular citizens. Look at our government. It is bathed in the bloods of innocents. And yet, the representatives of this government fill the social media landscape with appeals to our civility while they spend their days managing an appropriate money to fund systemic violence across the globe. This fundamental contradiction about violence in our society is not the only one. Everyone makes a great show of wagging their finger at the use of naughty words, while deftly turning a blind eye upon evil deeds. That's a beautiful quote, Bree. Good for you. That's a beautiful quote. Everyone makes a great show of wagging their finger at the use of naughty words, while deftly turning a blind eye upon evil deeds. We love to tone police, everybody. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be mindful with your words. Of course you should. But we really love to tone police everybody. We really love to point out we need civility in our politics. We need civility in our politics. Donald Trump said, shithole, I'm going to have a camera moment because I want to run for president in 2020. You need to be nice to... No, that's... We have an economy of war. We have an economy based on war. That's a bigger issue than civility in our politics. I don't care if Democrats and Republicans are civil to each other or not, quite frankly. I really don't care at this point. Because I don't respect our process. I have no respect for it. That's why I wouldn't... You should run for... No, I never will. Because you have to have at least some reverence for the process. I have zero. I've never had any, and I never will. Ever. But I believe we can do better. And I hope all of you do too. Otherwise, that's a pretty depressing state of mind to be in. But, yeah, I love that quote from Bree. She put it, I don't know why I expanded on it, because she put it so eloquently, and now I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. We're all like, talk nice. Meanwhile, we're killing people, and that's some bullshit. And they're like, yeah, we know, Ron. She summed it up in a very nice quote, and then you just had to babble on and on about it. I'm sorry. I apologize. Like, we get it, Ron. Yeah, we get it. Why don't you go back to the article? All right, you're right. I agree. Let's go back. But that's a beautiful quote, is my point. I should have just left it there. Everyone says that preying upon other people is bad, but everything in our society incentivizes us to do just that, prey upon each other. That's so true, too. They make it out like we're supposed to be, and we are supposed to participate in a community. And they tell us that in words. Meanwhile, everything is just dog eat dog. I mean, in corporate America, they encourage you to screw over your colleague. That's encouraged. That's rewarded. Everyone says that lying is wrong, but it is the liars who get ahead, the truth tellers who are demonized and ridiculed. The contradiction is then amplified by the mainstream media, I would call it the corporate media, who paradoxically is guided by the beauty of our weapons, to quote good old Brian Williams, the missile porn enthusiast. It's almost laughable when you hear media pundits say we don't condone violence. It's never the answer. The corporate media has never seen a war they don't like because they're funded by war profiteers. The corporate media are funded by war profiteers. The corporate media are funded by war. I'm going to repeat it because it's worth repeating, and it's worth, every day that should be a headline somewhere. The corporate media is funded by war profiteers. What kind of democratic society can exist when you have a media funded by war profiteers? A non-existent one. That's what. And I was having the conversation. I'm not here to say the BBC's perfect. It's not. The CBC's not perfect either. None of them are. But when you have a media funded by bomb makers and oil companies, your media structure is beyond broken. It is not only not helpful to the idea of a democratic society, it is toxic to it. It is the opposite. Our media structure shouldn't exist anywhere except for a fascist state. Our media structure should not be legal. So, I'm going to go to the chat. Bree wrote a beautiful article. I retweeted it. Please do read the whole thing. We're going to talk about it. But the question I want to pose to you guys, do you think humans are inherently violent? Are humans violent by nature? Is violence the answer? So I'll answer first because I posed the question, which of course is a very simple question. I don't think we're inherently violent. I think if we were, we never would have came out from the trees. And I of course, mean that metaphorically, not necessarily literally. I don't know if they... But you get the idea. We decided to cooperate a long, long time ago. If we were inherently violent, that never would have happened. We just would have killed each other, and the only humans existing would be, like, the largest among us, presumably. But we decided to cooperate. So, no, I don't think we're inherently violent. And is violence the answer? No. No, it's not. Because we're not an inherently violent species. Because cooperation and community has given us so many better things. It's given us agriculture. It's given us opportunity. It's given us, and I'm talking very much, basic here. I mean, of course, exploitation happens. But we're still not an inherently violent species just because we cooperated as a species. If we didn't, if we were inherently violent, we just would have kept killing and eating each other. Which there was some of that, yeah. There was some cannibalism. But we wouldn't be here now if we were an inherently violent species. We wouldn't have cooperated if we were an inherently violent species. And I know you can interpret, someone could use that same sequence of events to interpret it differently, but again, inherently violent means you're just naturally prone to violence. It's going to be your natural response. But we've evolved from that, which means we started cooperating. Had we not started cooperating, we wouldn't have evolved from that. We would still just be instinctual creatures. Just killing and taking, and that'd be it. So let me see what you guys are saying. Hobo Rody says violence will not deliver justice. Kim Hightower says chimps are very violent, but when cooperation works best to the benefit of more, we use that. So I guess you could say that maybe we are inherently violent. We just, and I'm not saying that I feel this way, but one could say, if they want to disagree with me, they could say that violence, we are inherently violent. We just see the greater incentive in cooperating. And I don't think that theory's right, and I'm wrong. It's just, John Doe points out violence begets violence. Darlene says we're inherently violent. Look at our closest relatives, the chimps. They're quite violent within their groups. They are quite violent within their groups. But we're not the chimps. We're the second step in evolution from that, or, whichever step. And we cooperated in a way that they don't, which makes me say we're not inherently violent. The threat of violence makes peaceful revolution possible, says Stephen Carl. If anything, capitalism is inherently violent, says Kevin. I agree with that. I do think capitalism is inherently violent. Humans are actually inherently cooperative. I agree with Chris Wynn. Humans are actually inherently cooperative. It's how civilization formed. Anyone who says humans are naturally violent are selfish and misinformed. Well, I don't know about that. I think that it depends on how you look at it. Paul Center says violence can be used for good. I think it depends on how you define violence, which is something way too deep for us to get into right now at this point in the show. But yeah, I think it depends on what you mean by violence too, because violent is, yeah. I had to write a paper once where we had to really define what exactly violence was. And I was the only person in my class, this was in a PhD level course, I was the only person in my class to say that violence is never the answer, but I based upon it my definition. But the way they were looking at violence I thought was so overly simplistic, and it was one of those things where the professor made her stance known to everybody. So everybody knew where the professor was at, And, you know, if you spend any time in academia and the humanities, you realize that in many cases it's just say what you need to say to get the good grade, say what you need to say to get tenure, don't rustle the boat, don't ask questions. One of the many reasons I left it, and I know we've talked about doing longer academia segments, and I am open to that, and we should do it. But yeah, I was the only person that said violence is never the answer based on my definition of violence. And the way they were looking at it, like, well, if you say violence was never the answer, that means that if someone's attacking you, you would let them kill you. To me, that is such an elementary definition and such an elementary way to look at that question that I couldn't believe I was hearing it in a place of higher learning. It, you know, it sounded like something that belonged in a right-wing think tank. But I would say that there's a difference in most cases between self-defense and violence. There's a big difference between someone's trying to kill you and you have to defend yourself to live. I don't think that's violence. I think those are two different things. And anyway, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. Kim asks, who is going to be at the show in San Francisco? I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. So come and say hello. Thomas says, give Ron Placone a like before the show is over, please. Guys, Thomas is right. Please give the show a like. Please, please, please. Yeah, please give the show a like. Let's see what else you guys... Stress is a trigger to violence. USA capitalism manufactures stress on the public, K-Line Report says. I agree. People need to reread The Lord of the Flies. That's a great book. I agree. And it's been well over a decade for me, so I should reread it. Good recommendation, actually. And guys, today, ironically, on my list of things to do is to go get a new library card. I have a library card for Los Angeles. I don't have a library card for Pasadena. I've always just been using the libraries there and just driving. And then I'm like, why don't I just get... There's a library right near my apartment. Why don't I have a card for there? Because all the libraries cooperate anyway. So if I need something, I can just order it via Pasadena. They can have it delivered via Los Angeles if they need to. So anyway, I'm finally doing that. And I'm someone that still uses libraries on the regular basis. I am very much pro-library, and I very much still use my library all the time. I've just been driving an extra 20 minutes for no frickin' reason instead of walking, and I prefer to walk. So, you know, I'm actually getting a library card today. Maybe I'll pick up Lord of the Flies. Guys, we are totally out of time. This is a fun question. We're going to explore this question more. Bree, thank you for writing such a great article. And everybody, thank you so much for your participation. Thank you so much for sending me. We had some fantastic news today. And it's because of you guys. I don't pick any of this shit. None of it. Like, you guys send it to me, and that's how we build it. I try to make sure everybody gets one article each. I know some of you guys sent a lot of stuff. I only pick like one or two of them because I want to give as many different people a chance to have their article used as possible. I don't get to everybody. Today's no different. I didn't get to everybody. I did my best, though. And thank you guys for doing such a great job. A little bit of housekeeping, ronplacone.com for all those latest tour dates. I got a little bit of news, guys. First of all, my album comes out tomorrow. Tomorrow. Keep an eye out for the iTunes link. And again, if you're a patron, you get that album for free. So please consider becoming a patron, a pay-what-you-can level. So you can give $1 a month or more, and you get all the same stuff. No matter what level you give at, everybody gets all the same stuff. Everybody. I have $5 put as the recommended level because I had to put something. The way Patreon works, you have to put something. So I just put $5. I figured that was simple. But if you can't give that much and can only give less, you still get the same thing as everybody else. Ignore what Patreon says. Anyway, you get the idea. So, please, if you can be a patron, please do consider it. And, Tour dates, I'm going to be in Sacramento Friday. I'm going to be in San Francisco Saturday. I can't wait to see you guys. There's still tickets available for San Francisco. Sacramento, some of you guys have been emailing me. Show up at the door. What we're going to do in Sacramento, we're going to squeeze in as many people at the door as we can. And this is if you don't already have tickets, by the way. If you have tickets, you're fine. If you don't have tickets yet, though, the show is sold out. Show up at the door in Sacramento. We're going to fit in as many people as we can. And if there's a big enough demand, we're going to do a second show. So don't worry. Don't worry. You will be able to see us in Sacramento. But if you can, drive over to San Francisco. There's still tickets in San Francisco. November 29th, I'm doing an album release party in Los Angeles. Our Politics Night at the Dojo night is going to be my album release party. So please, LA friends, and everybody can get on the guest list for that, please. I would love to see you. It would mean a lot to me if you can come out to that show. November 23rd, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Want to see you in my hometown. November 10th, Austin, Texas. Tickets still available for those shows, ronplacone.com. And our January tour in Florida. Tickets are available now for that. So if you're in Florida, Graham Elwood and I are going to be in your area in January. Come check out tickets. And New Orleans, March 13th. Tickets aren't available yet, but that run is building. More information soon. Guys, we are totally out of time. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. We'll be back next week. This was our last stream for the week. We do this every Monday through Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Stay safe out there. The podcast comes out tomorrow. If you missed anything from this week, we do a nice summary over at the podcast. You can get that anywhere you get podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher. Just Get Your News On with Ron. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being part of this. Have a lovely weekend. I will see some of you this weekend, and I can't wait. Sacramento, San Francisco. Can't wait to see you. San Francisco, there are still tickets available. ronplacone.com. And I'm stoked to see you guys. Have a good week.